Today we're going to talk about the approach. Now, what do I mean when I say the approach? What I really mean is the part of a race when you're approaching the wall. That's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the approach in this sense. And when you're approaching the wall it can be for a turn or for a finish. And we know that the approach is important because we know that we count our strokes in backstroke because we need to know exactly when to flip over. But the approach is actually a really, really vital part of having a great turn or a great finish, no matter what that turn is. If it's a standard freestyle flip turn, if it's a crossover turn, or if it's an open turn, the approach is very, very, very important. And the main reason the approach is important is because it helps us maximize our speed into the wall. And so the ultimate goal of a turn is to transition from swimming one direction back to the next direction as quickly as possible. And the ultimate goal of a finish is to get to the wall as fast as possible. And the approach really helps us do this if we do our approach properly, if we set ourselves up for success in our approach. Because we want to make sure that we're finishing to the wall on a full stroke. That's going to be the fastest finish. We don't want to finish long, so we don't want to take a stroke and then glide, because we can actively feel ourselves slowing down as we glide in the water. We're no longer in a propulsive phase of our stroke, and we're just gradually slowing down until we hit the wall. And on the other side of the spectrum, a short stroke it's not giving more speed. And in fact, in the sense of a turn, it provides such a jarring reaction with our body coming to the wall too close that we usually almost completely stop our momentum to prevent the rest of our body from crashing into the wall. And so we can't be too long and we can't be too short. We need to be just right. We need to be in the Goldilocks zone of our approach, finishing on that complete full stroke. That's going to help us maximize our speed into the wall. It's going to help us have a great finishing stroke and finish exactly in the position that we want to finish on, where we're not losing any of our propulsion as we come into the wall. It's also going to make sure that we can set ourselves up to have a great turn. Again, whether it's a backstroke flip turn, a freestyle flip turn, a crossover turn, or an open turn, it is very, very important to nail that approach so that you can maximize your speed into the wall, and then our turn provides us with good conservation momentum and keeping as much of that speed as possible coming off the wall and going in the next direction. So the best way to get good at the approach is to know your stroke counts. And I'm not just talking about in backstroke where we know our stroke count from the flags of the wall, so we know when to take our cross stroke and when to take our freestyle stroke so we don't hit our heads on the wall. But to know your stroke count by 25 in each stroke, within each race and across different races. So you're going to have a different 25 stroke count from your first 25 to your last 25 of your turn or fly, but you're also going to have a different stroke count from maybe even what your average stroke count is in a 200 fly to what your average stroke count is in a 100 fly. And so it's really, really important to know how many strokes you take on each 25 of a particular race. And because that's going to play a huge difference in making sure you know your turn. If you just think, well, I take 8 strokes of butterfly when I swim, and maybe you take 6 at the beginning of a 200 and 10 at the end of a 200, that's a very common kind of fade in a 200 distance race, and you're not planning for that, that's going to affect how and when you hit the wall as you're swimming, because you're not planning for taking that many strokes. So when you can plan for a specific number of strokes, you're going to be able to make an adjustment stroke outside where you're still 2 to 3 strokes away from the wall. So again, if you take 8 strokes per 25 and you're doing a butterfly, if you know that's what your stroke count is, then you're on stroke number 5 as you're coming to the flags. You know that you're ideally you're going to get 2 to 3 more strokes in. You might say, I need to cut a whole stroke out. I'm not going to squeeze 3 strokes in. And you might say, well, I need to take 1 short stroke so I can finish on that full stroke. So I'm going to take that short stroke now at the flags where I can still get into that next stroke, maintain my propulsion, and finish to the wall on a full stroke. And the opposite case might be true, where you say, I know that I take 8 strokes in this 25 butterfly in this part of my race, and I'm already on number 6, and I'm not even to the flags yet. So I'm going to take number 7 to be longer, because it's going to have less of an effect on my turn speed and my overall propulsion in the water by taking just a slightly longer stroke on number 7 and still being able to hit the wall on a full stroke on number 8. So how can you get a sense of what your stroke count is per 25 across all kinds of different races and stroke styles and all that stuff? Well, the best way to do it is to count your strokes, and to count your strokes as much as possible. Count your strokes in warm-up. Count your strokes when you're doing 25 repeats. Count your stroke when you're doing 200 repeats. Count your strokes when you're doing test sets. Count your strokes when you're doing cool down. Count your strokes in every single race at a swim meet every time you race it. Because the bigger your sample size is, the better feel you're going to have for what your stroke count is. And you got to know that your stroke count's going to change. What your stroke count is now is going to be different in maybe even in a season, or in 2 years, or in 5 years. So knowing that stroke count is constantly changing, so you have to be constantly keeping track of what it is, so you know when it changes, so it doesn't surprise you when you're at a meet and you dive in and you go, oh my gosh, I've been trying to plan for 15 strokes at 25 in my freestyle, and now I'm always taking 13 in this race. That's going to cause problems in terms of timing that freestyle flip turn for yourself. And the other thing that counting your strokes is going to do, the more you count your strokes, the more consistent you're going to be in your stroke count. And so, a good example is, for me in college, I knew that my 200 breaststroke stroke count, I would take 4 strokes on the first 25, 5 strokes on the second 25, 6, 6. So 6 and 6 on my third and fourth 25s, and then 7, 7, 8, 8. Now, I knew that was my stroke count, and by the time I was in my senior year of college, that stroke count wasn't changing. I wasn't going to lose a lot of strokes in a race or gain more strokes in a race, so it's pretty static, and so I could plan for it. And it's a 200 breaststroke is an event I raced a lot, and so I was very, very familiar with that stroke count. But the 200 butterfly, a race I didn't race a lot, I didn't have a better sense of what my stroke count was, and it changed pretty drastically as I started to do it more, improve the race, improve how I raced it, and do all that kind of stuff. And so I needed to be consistent in my stroke counts. And the more that I practiced butterfly and practice counting my strokes every time I was doing 100 or 200 repeats of butterfly, the better sense I got. So that when I dove in and raced a 200 butterfly, I knew that I was going to take 9 strokes at 25 for that. I might take 7 strokes on my first 25 because I get a dive, but then I was pretty consistently 9 after that, and that made sure that I could finish to the wall on a full stroke every time. And in the longer races, that becomes incredibly important to have a more efficient turn. Now, your overall turn time is a smaller portion of what your race is, but if you think about a 500 freestyle where you have 19 turns, if you can be even just a tenth of a second faster each time you turn, because you're more efficient, because you have a better sense of when you need to start that turn, that's almost 2 full seconds you're going to be faster at the end of the race. And if you can drop a quarter of a second off each turn, you're talking almost 10 seconds in a single race just on turns alone. And so all those small little changes that we can make by being able to have better turns with better approaches is going to add up to a pretty significant difference in our overall time in a race. And of course, we've seen that stroke count and finishing properly matters in races hugely. And so that approach on that last, that whatever that last 25 is, your approach is so important to your ability to maybe get a time, being a 10th faster or a 10th slower, or touching out that person that you're racing next to you. I mean, we saw it in the 2008 Olympics when Michael Phelps barely touched out Mila Radkovic to make sure to cement that he could get his 8 golds. We saw it in the 2016 Olympics when Maya Dorado ran down Katinka Hasu and out-touched her at the very end of the race. Being able to have that approach, knowing exactly where you're going to start that last stroke and finishing that last stroke, can make a huge difference. I mean, it can be the difference between, you know, a gold medal and a silver medal. It can be the difference between getting a qualifying time and not getting a qualifying time, or getting a best time and not getting a best time. And overall, it just, the more that we practice that kind of stuff, the better we're going to get at it, and the more consistent it's going to be, and the easier it's going to come for us to execute it when the time comes. And so, you know, what seems like such a small thing, being able to make that adjustment just, you know, outside the flags, or right at the flags, rather than trying to make your adjustment on the very last stroke. It seems like a very, very small thing, but it can have a profound impact on our overall ability to execute the race that we want to execute. And we know a bad turn or a bad finish can make or break a race. So we want to make sure we're nailing our approaches so that we can have good turns and great finishes.